In this recording, we're going to look at the subcultural theories of crime. So, a subculture is a social, economic, or age group with a particular character of its own, which exists in a society of its own. Its way of life is distinctive and may be based on different values arising from particular circumstances that differ from the rest of society. All subcultural theories focus on the collective group, not the individual. And one of these is the functionalist subculturalist Albert Cohen, who believes that delinquency is caused by a strain between cultural goals and the institutional means of achieving them. For example, working class boys are denied status at school as their parents have failed to equip them with the skills they need, and as a result they leave school with no qualifications and are denied status by wider society. They feel alienated and angry at the low status and experience status frustration. They respond by developing gangs who reverse the norms of the dominant culture and reward each other for their delinquent behaviour. Albert Cohen's study is useful because it was the first attempt to explain collective deviance. However, he only talked about males, but this was before female crime was studied. Also, he assumes that working class boys wanted to achieve a degree of success, and they may not have had these goals in the first place. And Albert Cohen assumes that working class can work out what middle class values are and then invert them. He may be just looking for things that aren't there. For example, Willis found that working class boys didn't have the same goals. Another functionalist subculturist is Miller, who believes that criminal values were an extension of working class values and that working class juvenile delinquents are merely acting out and exaggerating the mainstream values of working class subculture. Working class youth subculture has developed a series of focal concerns which give meaning to their lives outside work and compensate for the boredom and factory jobs. However, the values he identified could fit other classes. For example, Marxists would argue that upper middle class groups of rugby players want to show masculinity, but they're less likely to be labelled due to the bias of the criminal justice system. And Miller also ignores the crucial role of power. Another functionalist subculturalist theory is Cloward and Olin, who believe that the type of crime committed by young people depends on the type of illegitimate opportunity structure that is available to them in their area. The illegitimate opportunity structure produced three types of subculture. You have the criminal subcultures, which mirror legitimate business, the conflict subcultures, which is dominated in inner city areas, and these people engage in highly masculinated territorial violence. And then you have the retreatist subcultures, which is basically if people fail to get into the criminal subcultures or the conflict subcultures, then they form the retreatist subculture. So overall, this studies a sophisticated approach which combines Merton's theory as well as Cohen's. However, the problem with it is it fails to distinguish between the different subcultures. So now we're going to move over and look at Marxist subcultural theories. They believe that subcultures can be seen as a form of symbolic resistance to the dominant adult value system shaped by the middle class and capitalist values. So one theory is Phil Cohen, make sure you get the Cohens right because there is three of them, who studied the 1970s skinheads and proposed that the skinhead style was a symbolic reaction to the decline of working class communities whose dress exaggerated working class masculinity and aggression, while the anti-immigrant stance was a reaction to the decline of their working class neighbourhoods. Another study of the skinheads is by Clark, who believed that the skinheads had a desire for their roots, and this was one reason why football hooligans defended their end. Their style of dress was an attempt to recreate a lost community in a period in which the experiences of increasing oppression demanded forms of mutual organisation and defence. Their dress was deemed as magic as it enabled them to delude themselves that they had steady jobs. However, the problem with both Marxist subcultural theories is that they're idealists and they may be just looking for crime that isn't theirs. They're just looking for the motivations of crime. And the study of clothing is seminology, which is very subjective, and functionalists would argue that the clothes that youth wear is irrelevant because most people who join a group leave when they get older, so it doesn't really matter what people wear. And in conclusion, postmodernists like Ling would argue that the real reason why young males get involved with deviance is that they like taking risks and getting involved with edgework. And Matza argues that everyone has subterranean values, which means that everyone is a potential criminal. It's just that some people are better at suppressing them. Matza also argues that people drift into minor deviance and then drift out as they get older. But then Matza may just be playing down the impact of this deviance. Subcultural theories also fail to recognise individual responses, and subcultural theories may now be outdated.